Welcome to Odyssey and the platform. And one of our free events at the moment is about astrology. And Jill Loftis and myself will be I'll be looking at just some of the energy. I'll be in and out. And Jill will be telling us what to expect as we move along. We've already had a little bit of a conversation. And we're starting with the month of April, Jill. And already I was saying to you, I don't like the feel of this. Being a medium as such. So I'll hand it over to you. You can let us know what's going on with the planets and what to expect.
Yes, absolutely. Well, of course, thank you and welcome everyone. I'm gonna bring up my little spreadsheet here as we look at the second quarter of the month. So we're going to be looking at April, May, and June. And you can already sense into the feelings of April. Now, even normally, this is a time of a lot of fire energy, right? The energy of spring and renewal. But even just like a cosmic kind of a joke, Mercury stationed retrograde on April 1st. And so already we're experiencing some of the gear jamming that comes with a retrograde Mercury, which just tends to make there's some complications with communication. Even something as simple as you tell somebody, or you say to your child, maybe you should put up on a jacket, and they're like, you don't like my outfit? It's like, no, just told you to put on a jacket. Miscommunications like that, but also issues with electricity, electronics, things like that. But it's all in the sign of Aries. And we have the energies for this month, actually for the next several months, are just packed into three little parts of each person's chart. And the energy of Aries is very much the energy of starting, of initiation. So fire energy is here. Now, fire, like we all know, is a very powerful force, but applied inappropriately, it is a dangerous force, destructive force. And so we have to watch, because Mercury is the mind and how we communicate. We also have the sun here. We also are about to literally within a day or two have Venus here, which gives this desire nature. We also have Chiron, which means we're really processing a lot of pain, the pain of being independent, the pain of being in a relationship, the pain of childhood. All of these things are being processed. And this is just an enormous amount of energy in that area of life. So being change adept is always part of just the human experience, but it just feels a little bit more tenuous this month. And we also have the energy of shocking events happening this month. Why? Well, because we have the planet Jupiter, which makes things bigger and expansive, and in the positive sense, optimistic, and in the negative sense, gluttonous, coming in contact, a rather rare contact with Uranus. Now, it does touch the planet Uranus every 12 to 14 years, but in Taurus, it's kind of an unusual event, literally like every so many 100 years event. This introduces some destabilization literally to the planet. Shocking events, sudden events, weather-related, that could be related to water, they could be related to fire, it could be related to earthquakes. I would expect multiple incidents over the month related to those things. So if you're in an area where those things happen, have your backup plans, be sensible, stay grounded. Do all the things that adults do. Be prepared. There also could be really wild swings with currency, with money, with resources like food and things like that. So have your backup plans available with those as well. There could be moments of magical synchronicities. This is also a thing. You should really be paying attention to the symbols that you're getting this month, because magical things could happen as well, things that you thought maybe were impossible. There also will be dramatic changes with technology, and technology becoming even a bigger issue in our daily lives and how we live our lives. Taking initiative this month to work on yourself will be highly rewarded. This is a time where we have to kind of own our stuff. We have to step into this instead of asking everybody, not that you don't reach out to your healers and your helpers and your friends and things like that, but it's a time for the more responsibility you'll take for where you are, the easier it will be for you to get where you're going. All right. And lots of ideas and conversations, but more, make sure we are listening. With Aries energy, there can be this desire to tell and talk, and not the opposite, which is to truly be listening and to absorb and to understand and integrate. Relationships highlighted, right? Because those people are our mirror. We gaze into them, and that is how we see what we're vibing, right? You want to see what you're sending out into the universe, just look at the people that you've attracted. And if you don't like those folks, it's time for you to change you, not to you to change them. Change your vibration. You have to also find this balance between being independent and together. I'm not sure how much of you have ever seen Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the little animated special. And there's a part where the little elf says, let's be independent together. And that's a healthy relationship, being independent together. And so finding that balance, and if you are out of balance in your relationships, well, that will really come forward. If you're taking on all the effort in the relationships, you're going to see that this month. There also could be some really hard lessons this month due to Mars coming in contact with Saturn. We're also in the eclipse season. We had an eclipse on the 25th. We have another major eclipse coming up on the 8th of April. These are times that are destabilizing. These are events that can occur that maybe, there'll be a few that seem big on the surface, but there'll be quite a few that don't seem big on the surface, but are setting us up for big changes in the future. It's kind of like when you go out and you've got your garden and you're planting the seeds, right? And you're spreading them out, and you kind of have a vision maybe of what will come up. And then in a couple months, everything comes up and you're like, wow, I had no idea what just happened there. So you really have to tap in and make sure that, in particular, the seeds that you're nourishing in your life are the things that you want, the things that you really need. And the consequences of things can sometimes feel like, it kind of feels like there's a certain amount of uncertainty. That's because there's a lot of Pisces energy, and the Pisces energy is, there's not always clarity, but the Pisces energy also deeply relates to spirit and spirituality. And so tapping in to your angels, your guides, it's always important, but this month it's vital. It's so vital that you do that. And then I would really watch, particularly at the end of the month, confusion and what I'm calling like mass psychosis. There's so much energy in Pisces that it's like an undercurrent. And then there's the Aries energy, which is, I want to take action. And when people who are operating from fear-based reactions or uncertainty, and they just start lashing out at the person that's closest to them or the thing that's closest to them, or they all gather together and say, whose fault it is? It's so-and-so's fault. And they go running towards that. I mean, throughout history, people have unfortunately done this. This group dynamic can be quite dangerous. I remember giving the advice to my son. You may have heard me say this before. I say it quite often. I always say, son, anytime you're in a group of young men, always remember it's the young man with the lowest IQ who leads you all. There can be this group energy of someone who's so certain of something and charging in a certain direction. And a lot of people, because they're afraid or uncertain or feeling unstable, are like, yeah, I guess we all have to go do this. Take a step back from those situations. Be cautious and wise in those situations, because there could be confusion. There could be uncertainty. You might not have all the information.
It's interesting, Jill, that what you're saying, because as you're talking, I'm listening to them and the messages they were saying. They were saying also about the manifestations. I know you brought up the key dates and stuff to look at, but also with, we're talking about that spiritual side of ourselves, it's be mindful about your manifestations at the moment, because they're saying there's going to be a lot of mood swings, or the mind's going to be changing. So we're talking about, how really look at where you're at and stuff. And this is also with relationships, and this is like with friendships and stuff. So it's about really managing your own energy at this time. So April is going to be really about managing your own energy, looking at like not jumping out and making rash decisions. That's what I heard. And I think that's, you were saying about the Aries and stuff. Again, I'm not astrologer, but medium. But the energy is, it's like to find your balance, your inner balance. So really look at where this is coming from, instead of like really jumping out. It's really to go into the heart center, the gut, and to really ask before you jump. And a bit like what you were saying about the crowd mentality, they was also saying to me that there will be, I can see groups of, I don't like to say this, but group of fighting or violence. There'll be something like that where, because it like destructuralization, they're sort of saying, so pulling something apart. So politically as well, it's like name calling. There'll be that going on. They're talking about that as well. So energetically like that. And again, I go back to the earthquakes, the flooding. That's going to put, it's like the whole earth is feeling the vibration of individuals. So the energy of us individually, our electromagnetic field, is going to also affect the energy that's on the earth as well. So that's going to tap into it and to feed into it. So again, they just said to me, thank you, don't forget about the manifesting, go back. So be mindful of what you're manifesting, because whatever you think that you want right now, it's going to happen quite quick. But your mind, actually, you might get it and go, oh, I don't know if I really want that, and I've called it in. So it's about looking at what you really, really do want. So it's really about, I was saying this to you a little bit earlier, going to your higher self and looking at what is it you do need, whatever it is, and looking at that. Again, they just said, I wrote a little bit of notes here, don't jump in, think about things. And yeah, thank you. They also said about romantic healing, so karmic relationships. So in April, endings, and there'll be beginnings later on, but it's about anything that's no longer serving you as an individual that will come up in relationships a lot the most. So karmic healing, there's those relationship lessons, also coming back from past lives, they said. So any relationships you had in past lives, they're going to be seen in April, where a lot of endings, or looking at reassessing where you are. Okay, thank you. I just had to jump in because they sort of prompt me. So yeah, thank you, Jill. And the keynote's amazing. Let's see what goes on next.
Yeah. So yeah, just for April, feel free to, take a screenshot of this. We've already got the retrograde Mercury. So you're going to have to reconsider, rethink some things, especially if you know where Aries is in your chart. We've got that powerful new moon on April the 8th. It particularly impacts North America, particularly the United States, very strongly because it traverses across the country. It's a new moon, but I really don't recommend big initiations for eclipses because the energy is too erratic. Okay, it's a time to stay steady, and not just that day, but the days before and after, and understand that it will ripple out literally. Solar eclipses are impact us for a year for every minute, and this one's like a minute and 30 seconds, or 4 minutes and 30 seconds, so almost 4 years of impact. So look symbolically at what happens, right? The universe is always interacting with us. Caution flag up on April the 10th, Mars comes together with Saturn. So I always think of Mars as a young man on a horse, right? He's doing his thing. He's probably swimming because it's in Pisces, right? And then he runs into the old man who says, what about the rules? What about the time? So there could be a clash there. So be a little careful. And then April 13th, the sun is going to touch Eris. Eris is a dwarf planet. Astronomers would consider her similar to Pluto, but she's the sister of Mars, and she's the goddess of strife and discord. She is active and retrograding and moving with the sun and Mercury this month. So again, discord. Especially, I think the divine feminine is really looking to kind of break free this month in some ways, and that will continue throughout the year. Sun will move into Taurus on the 19th, and we'll all of us nice little Taurans will be like happy to be out in the field eating some grass, right? Hopefully we'll begin to slow the energy down. And then this really unique meeting between Jupiter and Uranus, they come together officially on the 20th, but you will feel it from the middle of the month through the end of the month. Synchronicities, sudden shocking events, and again, the weather. The full moon is on the 23rd of the month. It is at 4 degrees of Scorpio. It clashes with Pluto, so it's a lot of intensity. Quick question here. Explain more about what is important to focus on during eclipse. Yes, I can do that. No problem. And then I'm also watching that Mars-Neptune meeting on April 28th. That's the one I'm telling you. It's like the Mars is that energy to do something, and the Neptune is, but who knows what direction we're going in. Could be good for spiritual practices, but not good for practicality. Venus will slip into Taurus on the 29th, again, starting to cool down the energy a little bit, but then Mars moves into the Aries on the 30th, and Mars will set off some triggers as well. So again, volatile month. Yeah, as far as eclipses, what I like to think of in eclipse, I like to look at the area of life that it's in. If it's a solar eclipse, I think about what initiations, what's beginning in this area of life that I almost need to like step back and just be observant of. And then when it comes to the lunar eclipses, it's more like something is trying to be removed from my life. How can I do that gracefully? How can I let go gracefully? How can I take 2 giant steps back, even though I might be sad it's leaving, or I might have thought that that was important. I got to trust this process. So that's the way I would look at it. And I just would be careful of group energy during those times, because again, people sense the volatility and they start looking around for someone they can react with. So you don't want to be reactionable or the bringer of anyone's karma, as one of my teachers used to say. All right, May. I think you will feel a distinct vibe change when we get to May, but again, part of it is because you need to integrate. When things change around, there's a period of integration. It's like if you do yoga, right? You lay down in Shavasana. That's the integration. You eat your food, but it has to be digested. And May is the integration phase. Now, there will be opportunities. There will be some beneficial blessings, some positive energy. A lot of the energy is what we call in astrology a sextile, and those are opportunities. It's kind of like the door cracks open. The door's not going to swing open. The universe is going to say, come on, let's fix this mess. It's not going to be quite like that. I see it more as an opportunity for people who are, instead of lamenting the way the things have gone, are instead understanding and integrating why they did and how to move forward. Do all the good Taran things, eat good food, rest if you need to rest, get extra sleep, take care of your body, your sweet little animal body, take care of it. Hug people, hug trees, plant food, take the time to smell the flowers, literally, and be practical. Stay practical. One of the things that we have to watch with all of this energy coming around technology is that we don't lose our humanity. We're humans for a reason. Also, pay attention to money and finances. There's going to be some ups and downs and ups and some radical changes. Some of that will happen in April, but May will continue with that. And again, managing your resources, your money, your resources, what you have and how you manage it is evidence to the universe how you feel about yourself. So you are an instrument. Your time is energy. Your money is energy. So manage it all wisely. Again, continue with the theme of healing conversations, really, working through some of these things. Chiron is going to be moving to some new degrees during this time. And so there'll be new lessons, new understandings. It's not like the relationship stuff's going to get all like tied up with a little bow in April. It'll show you where the work is. There will also be some new ideas and new people coming through. Interestingly enough, the planet Jupiter, the planet of abundance and blessing, will be finishing up its time through Taurus and will enter into Gemini. And it will start bringing in, new connections, new ideas. It was last year, 12 years ago. So you might wish to look back at that time period, 2012. But it brings blessings and benefits. Is it better to postpone? Questions. Better to postpone financial investments during this time? Well, I'm not a financial advisor, or else Anne and I would own an island somewhere. We all be having a big retreat. So But I would say this, there are going to be shocking opportunities and shocking changes. And so you have to kind of tune into that. I would expect, but again, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't even play one on TV. But I would expect crypto and things like that. There will be some big developments with that. Will they last for the long term? Who knows? There's going to be dramatic ups and dramatic downs. All right. So,
I feel the same way, Jill. I mean, if the message that I'm getting, channeling hearing from them, it's going to be quite volatile, so up and down with the money situation. So, again, not financially trained, but in that area, it's like don't overinvest what you can't afford to lose. So, if it means holding on to the purse strings or whatever, it is about looking at that. What if you were to lose it, can you afford to lose it? If you can't, do not invest.
yeah, that's always good advice. That's always good advice. And I would also remember, invest in yourself, invest in your skills, invest in your health. Those are important things. Health is a wealth of its own. And so, but that said, even in April, when that Jupiter Uranus comes together, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. I'm not going to blow hundreds of dollars on it, but I would make a wonderful philanthropist, I think. So I'm going to give the universe a chance to send some money my way, but I'm also going to be incredibly practical. And I still have my containers of rice and beans, and I've got my greenhouse going, and I'm also going to be sensible. So yeah. But yeah, I would feel into the financial changes, because I would say this. Don't let anyone tell you, well, traditionally, traditionally this does, the new is coming. The new is coming, whatever that is. I wouldn't put all your eggs in any one basket, for sure. So yeah. And I do think there will be some collective karmic events, not only in April, but in May, that will really show us. And I think also this kind of relates to the planet and to the karma of the planet. Remember, the Earth has karma too. And there are choices that we make that she's got to respond to. And it's not punishment, because karma is not punishment. The law of karma is whatever you do, say, or think returns to you. And so Mother Earth is here to support us, but she is also going through adaptations and changes, and we will need to be responsive to those things. Another thing to think about is that the planet Neptune is coming to the 29th degree, to the very end, but it's going to pause and move backwards. So it's not ready to move into Aries, but it will next year. Next year, 2025 you won't even be able to compare it to this year, I don't think. You will feel like a very different place. So be inspired, but don't be delusional.
It's interesting you're talking about this, because it's funny, because they keep showing me like collections of more of community, sort of tribal, that sort of feeling of like we are fed up of others speaking for us. It's now time for us to start speaking for ourselves. But it starts to sort of gently manifest through May, in a sense of, because what they're showing me image wise, it's almost like people are coming out of being shell shocked through April and sort of rubbing their eyes, as you do when you're like waking up and it's pitch black and you've just come out of a cave or something. This is what they just showed me. So it's like it's starting to look at like new world, or new things are changing. It's sort of slowly as you come out in May is what they're sort of seeing. And it's there feels as if that they're the collection of individuals looking at the planet and starting to really look at heating the planet. So it's more about looking at our environment where we live in. So that's what I keep seeing. It's like people saying, right, this can't happen anymore. We have to join forces together to make a change. And I think that's sort of really sort of coming forward in May as well. That's what I'm feeling. That's what they're giving me.
Yeah. I think that's great. I mean, I think that is part of it. It's I don't know where I heard the quote once. There are no safe places, there are safe people. It's really finding, who you trust and who you connect with, and knowing that you'll be guided to the right places. It's not about hiding under, in your bed with your pillow over your head, fearing things. Because fear causes anger. Fear causes upset. You look at all these people who are lashing out and causing all these other people so much pain and suffering, those people are afraid. Okay? They're afraid. So manage your own fear. Don't be resonant with that. Don't be resonant with let every little thing that happens to you throughout the day serve as a symbol. You trip going down the stairs, that's the universe saying, slow down. Slow down. All right. You forget and set your alarm late and you miss a meeting. It's okay. You needed the sleep, right? You didn't get on that flight. It's okay. You're not supposed to be on that flight. Don't freak out about it. Don't try to over control it. All right, as we begin the month, so as Venus steps into Taurus, which she loves to be in, she's going to meet Pluto in an angular energy right as Pluto pauses in the sky and moves backwards. I've mentioned before, the planets don't actually go backwards, but from our perception here on Earth, they pause and they retrace their steps over certain angles and points in our chart. So we've gotten our first flavor of Pluto in Aquarius, and now it backs up, and we examined some of the changes that we've made since March of 2023. Pay attention to the date of the station. So I just like to pay attention to the symbols because it's very much like a stamp or a mark. It's like, okay, now we review these events or these choices. The new moon for the month is on the 7th, and it has lovely energy with Saturn. So this is a make-a-wish kind of moon, but be practical. Maybe make it financial. This could be your abundance moon. If you don't know exactly which house Taurus is for you, Taurus represents the body, the physical body, but also just your own self-worth, values, practicality. Maybe offer a prayer for Mother Earth as well on that day, but it really has some nice energy to that Pisces area of life. Now, we had a bunch of planets clustered together in April, which when the planets get close together, they have to work together. Their energies influence each other, just like if you have 3 people at the table and you're trying to decide what to make for dinner, you all have to kind of figure something out. Well, these are the planet Jupiter, again, expansion, still present with Uranus, shock and awe, sudden things, rebellions, and the sun, all coming together in Taurus. So just watch, because the shadow of this could be excess. You know, Jupiter, sun, Taurus, let's eat everything. You know, could bring poor financial choices or throwing all your money into something. You know, watch, be careful of that. But again, could also bring just sudden, shocking, wonderful things as well. Now, on the 15th, Mercury will step into Taurus, and this will be good because it means it's getting out of the shadow zone, beginning to move into Taurus, the mind becoming a little less agitated, but it will argue with Pluto a little bit. So there could be some tense power struggles around that time. Then we have Venus meeting with Uranus around May 18th. You want to meet somebody? You want love? You put those magical synchronicity goggles on and look around. You don't know who might show up. Sun is also meeting Jupiter at that time. And there's a nice, kind of Neptune connection. And so it could be very inspirational and wonderful. On May 20th, the sun will step into Gemini. And when it steps into Gemini, it's going to begin to send some nice energy to Pluto. So this will give us a little harbinger of June's energy. May the 23rd, we have a full moon. It's at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. And so right before it, Venus is going to touch Jupiter and move into Gemini. And then Jupiter moves into Gemini on May 25th. So all of a sudden, we go from this kind of plodding Taurus, food, money, into Gemini. And the energy will start to lighten. There'll be a lot more conversations. You'll be meeting a lot more people, a lot more socialization, and a lot more ideas. And then, and take note of that entry of Jupiter into Gemini, just because when Jupiter changes signs, again, it's setting you up for a full year of a new energy and a new activation in your chart. And typically, Jupiter is blessings. Just the only way you can kind of go sideways with Jupiter energy is to take on too much and say yes to everything. So be careful and cautious about that. And then at the end of the month, I would watch Mars comes in contact with Chiron. And this is almost like this will kind of test all the ideas and conversations that you've had over the last 2 months about what's hurts, what needs to be healed, about your relationships, because Mars is going to activate these karmic relationship sectors and kind of give the push to change, to move forward, to evolve, to take action. Oh, no worries about getting bounced out. I'm happy to let people in. It's totally fine. So yeah, so May has just like an integration period. Anything you want to add to that, Anne?
No, I'm with you. I can see it in what you're saying about, when we come into May, the energy starts to shift because the tail end of May energy moves into that June energy, like we were saying before, that, off camera, I was saying to June feels a slightly different energy, and it's really the tail end of May that makes that shift. So it's like sort of almost like not fixing ourselves, but sort of like checking in with ourselves after April. We go into May, that sort of feeling, patting ourselves down, looking at the energy of how we're feeling. And then May, and then again, it starts shifting and changing. And I also see that sort of socializing as we move into June. So it's the tail end of that May energy that will take us in. So yeah, I love that. So yeah, I'm full on with
Yeah.
you.
And it's interesting to think, every year the sun moves into Aries in April and in March actually, and is in there in April, and every year Taurus and every year Gemini. But it's rare to have the personal planets, Mercury and Venus, accompanying them and again, clustering the energy into certain areas of life. I heard another astrologer recently say part of the reason that this feels so pivotal is because with most of the planetary energies focused in 3 areas of your life, for some of you, you're receiving all these beneficial flows of energy and all these difficult energies and all at the same time. Like everyone is doing that. So there's nobody who's just, yeah, what are you talking about? Everything's okay with me. I don't know about you. I'm not having any, everybody's being required to make some adjustments and some changes. There's a lot of energy for everybody. And yeah, I mean, I know I've had a lot more clients reach out. There's a lot of uncertainty and yeah, just a lot of change. Embrace the change. So yeah, and that kind of Geminian energy escorts us into the month of June. So some of the keywords for that month: sociability. If you tend to be a little bit of a hermit, which especially when things go sideways, it's easy to kind of pull back a little bit. Make connections. Know your neighbor. Invite a couple people over for tea. If someone pops into your mind, and you should do this, I mean, I think you should probably do this all the time, but especially right now with this kind of synchronistic energy, if someone pops into your consciousness a couple times and you haven't spoken to them, shoot them an email, send them a text, give them a call. There's a reason. There's a reason that they're popping into your mind, and it's not just, it's not random, even if it's, if you wake up. Lately, my husband and I, we've both been waking up with songs in our heads from certain time periods. And I've been looking them up to see what year, to see how they line up with the astrology. It's kind of pretty fascinating, actually. Yeah, I always say to yourself, there really aren't mistakes. There really aren't mistakes. So follow through on those things.
I think that's the biggest thing as well that I've heard from some of the groups that I run through Odyssey is that a lot of people are thinking of somebody and they're like they've been reaching out to them and like, oh yeah, we were thinking about you too, and they're just checking in with each other. So I agree with that. That's going to be a lot of that going on now, and also as we move along. And the June thing is like really coming together. So yeah, I'm full on with that. Totally makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think it will be good. I think there'll be a lot of conversations and ideas. What you do have to watch, especially with Gemini energy, though, every energy has a light and a shadow, right? The light of Aries is action and you get things done and passionate. And the shadow of Aries is immaturity and anger and being rash, right? The light of Taurus is the steadiness and the dedication and the enjoyment of things. And the shadow of Taurus is not getting moving when you should and moving too fast when you shouldn't. The bull in the china shop, or the shadow of Taurus can be clinging to the old ways, or obsession with, pleasurable things and not being disciplined. The shadow or the bright of Gemini is those wonderful ideas and information and the memory and the sociability and the fun and the laughter. But the shadow of Gemini is just talking about things and not doing them, or living in a world in your head. Your mind is a tool that needs to be used. You're not your mind. And you may have to remind yourself of that often during the Gemini season when all of these things come into there. It's like, did I actually say that, or did I just think it? Am I sending my mind? If mind builds my life, if my thoughts create my existence, my thoughts and my words, what am I building? A client said this once: remember that the word is spelling because your words are a magic spell. So whether you're repeating them in your head or repeating them with your voice, you're manifesting something, and you need to make sure that you're using those tools wisely. Now, there will be a certain amount of glamour and illusion as well. Why? Well, because we've got all this Pisces energy going on, and Neptune activations as well. And so there can be this kind of attractiveness to those things. This is part of the reason why over these past few years, social media has blown up. This is why everyone's keeping up with the Kardashians and all this kind of stuff that's very illusory and glamorous. And, it's like high fructose corn syrup for the brain. And that bubble is going to pop next year. It's going to pop hard. And so make sure you're not falling into those holes of glamour and illusion. If you want to be inspired, again, set the compass more for the spiritual, more for what really matters. There will be a bit of instability and uncertainty because Mars is going through Aries, and Mars is coming through here and want to trigger a lot of things that started in April and want to make them bigger. And so the question is how that is going to go. And you do need to tap in to your intuition, your inner guidance, your inner self, so that you don't get caught up in rash decisions or things that might suddenly blow up. So, Anne, what's your take?
Yeah, it's funny because there's the information I'm hearing is that there's something almost like you was talking about the illusion, and this is what they're talking to me about in June. There might be sort of like the illusion of what we are being fed by either media or social media. There's something there that they're saying to me. So they are also still talking to me about the political side or how things are going to be portrayed. So, okay, thank you. They just said, so something like where there might be wars in certain parts of the world, how this sort of seems to be either a cover up or how what really is going on, but we're seeing another side to it. This is what I'm being told. And we're sort of going to be shown what we want to believe is happening. So everything's okay. Everything's calming down. I think it's going to be very good. But underneath it, there's the other side. It's like the Jekyll and Hyde. Actually, it's an illusion. There's something else that's going on, but they don't want the rest of the world to see it. So I think news-wise, breaking in June, there will be a lot of what we might have been sort of being fooled to believe, treated like fools in a way. So there's still that coming. There's still that happening. This is what they show me. They just said Mars. I said, I don't know anything about astrology, but they sort of said this is what could be going on with Mars and what it's bringing to the surface. So that's what they're saying there. When you were saying, thank you, when you were saying about, follow your own path, that spiritual journey, it's very much about finding your balance. So in June, yes, socializing, but really, again, keep coming back to your heart center, keep being really authentic to yourself. There also might be how, gosh, it seems really a dark picture, but it's almost like being deceived by others. There's something there about friendships, relationships as well, they're sort of saying. So It's really about checking in with who you are, how you're feeling, really being authentically yourself in June. So yes, the socializing that's coming up, but it's really about meeting who are really like-minded to yourself, who actually believe in what you feel, again, because of the energy that's there. But yeah, there's still things to just take your time. That's what I'm hearing. Just be gentle with yourself, because also we're talking energy wise, it can also knock out your energy. So over socializing. So it is that taking care of yourself and nourishing yourself. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And I would say this not just for June, but for all 3 months. It's always a good point to bring up with the Uranian energy, and the contacts that it's making, that can really juice a person's nervous system. And so your nervous system could be agitated. And also, if you pay attention to the sun astronomically, the sun has been really active, and which can bring headaches and all these other things. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so some key dates for June. Beautiful energy between the Jupiter in Gemini to the Pluto. And so I would look at this as this is the first contact of Jupiter in a positive sense to Pluto. And so kind of a visionary moment there. But Mars will touch Eris on that same time period. So again, conflicts, wars. And it's sad to say, but I think there's going to be more energy around that as we continue.
Yeah.
Mercury will slip into Gemini on the 3rd and then come in contact with Jupiter. So ideas, conversations, they're important. Creative writing, mind mapping, all those kinds of things. If you have a lot of buildup of mental energy, write it down. If it's something you want to discard, burn it. You know, you can't always have every conversation you want to have with every person. They're not in the space to receive what you need to say, but you still might need to get it out of your mind. And then a new initiation, a new moon in Gemini on the 6th. Wonderful for launching new initiatives, for any creative ideas that you have, conversations that you want to have, sociability, things like that. Then Venus in Gemini will clash with Saturn on the 8th. So any contact with Venus typically is positive, but again, just watch that you are not being casual about something that's actually serious. That can also be a thing that Gemini is. Gemini's teasing energy, or, oh yeah, well, I don't care about this or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, actually, you better care about this. There's a reality check coming through. So you have a birthday on the 6th of June. Well, wow. That's wonderful. A new moon on your birthday usually means a very, very brand new year. A brand new year for you. And a full moon on your birthday means a busy, busy year. So yeah, so watch that little June 8th energy. Just could be a little clash. Again, pay attention to your mind and your mouth. On the 9th, Mars will slip into Taurus. Now, as it finishes up there, anytime Mars gets to the tail end of something and there's a push to completion, it's a little bit of erratic energy, so be cautious. But once Mars moves into Taurus, that's positive. It slows it down a little bit, weakens the planet a little bit as well, but still slows things down. But then the sun is going to clash with Saturn. There are a lot of what we call squares here. And what does a square mean? It's a mathematical indicator that the planet's energies are not flowing together. They're not playing well, right? Squares make you turn a corner. Squares, you're confidently moving in one direction and you run into a wall. There's no way to go through this wall. You're going to have to go a different direction. It's a direction that you didn't want to go. It's a direction that feels uncomfortable. You might be fearful. There will be many of those this month. So just slow down a little bit. Slow down again, adaptability. So the Mars square the Pluto, June 10th, 11th, 12th. I would be very cautious during this time. It can sometimes bring violence or violent events. If I see this aspect, particularly in someone's natal chart, I recently had this with a client. She was having this same angle, and she was not resonating with violence, but her partner was driving the car and started fussing at another driver, and they ended up pulling over, and the guy pulled a gun out on them, and it was a bad scene. All right. So this is the kinds of things that you don't want to be resonant with and you don't want to get involved with. Mercury in a negative aspect to Saturn on the 12th, well, that could be a little harshness to the mind, could feel hopeless. Work with that. There's always hope. Venus square Neptune, a little bit of confusion, fog, uncertainty. And then as they finish up their time in Gemini, both Venus and Mercury will move into Cancer together. This again will feel like a dramatic shift because right after that, we have the solstice where the sun moves into Cancer. And now there's this hypersensitivity. There's this more of an energy towards, I want to nurture, I want to care for, oh my goodness, family, is my family okay? This kind of thing that you'll feel once you get to the end of June. Do watch that sun as it clashes with Neptune right before it moves into Cancer. That can definitely be another indicator of being certain that you need to do or go somewhere and do something, and you don't have all the information. Some tension on the 22nd between Mercury and the nodes and the moon. In fact, that particular day, I would circle and be very cautious. That's a very karmic interaction of the nodes of fate, as we call them. And then we observe June the 29th, because Saturn is going to pause in the sky. And again, the planets don't go backwards, but it's going to appear to go backwards. Begin to move backwards through the sign of Pisces and retrace the last few months. And you'll have to rethink, redo, re-examine some of the choices that you've made in whatever area of life is Pisces for you. It will bring lessons around any self-defeating habits or patterns that you have. It will bring up karmic contracts and lineage karma. So that is something to observe and pay attention to. Anything to add to that, Anne?
It's interesting because I'm sitting here listening to this, and then they turn around, and my guides have just turned around and said, well, the reason for explaining this is, and I was like, oh, that's interesting why you came in with that. I think the reason for going through breaking down the dates for what you're doing and looking at the months and what they're saying to me is it helps people to understand like how their moods are affected by the energy of those planets and what's going on. And I think that's really important because, you know, some people will contact me and go, oh, this is what's happening. I'm really worried. And suddenly my energy shifted, and today it was this and yesterday it was like that. But a lot of it is because of the ripple effect of the energy, because of where the planets are and what they're doing. So, you know, by breaking this down, it makes so much sense for people to get a better understanding of where you are on your journey. And, you know, as I said to you before, I'm not an astrologist, but I can feel the energy, and looking at your dates, what you've got here, I'm like, yep, it's ticking it off. So I can feel it and see it. So I can see it. And again, you said something, it's not to fear what we are saying that may happen at those particular times. It's actually forewarned, forearmed, they just said. I'm not going to get my shield and sword now, but what it is that by us knowing roughly what is going to occur around about those times, it's just for the preparation for ourselves. It's just for us to keep self-checking in. So yeah, no, Jill, they just don't, they like Jill's energy. They just said, we like Jill's energy and what she's doing. So I love that. You've got their approval, Jill. I love it.
I am honored. I appreciate it. No, it's one of those things. It's like if you realize what's happening, then you can just adapt a little bit more skillfully. And instead of thinking that something's wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
Every moment that has happened before has led to this perfect moment. And the question is, how do you build the future? You know, the present moment, the present, it's a gift that's built from what happened before and is synthesizing the things so that you can decide what you want next.
Yeah, totally.
And how you respond or don't respond to these things determines what happens next. You know, someone, it makes me think of this incident with my friend, if, that guy had cut them off and cursed at them and done all that stuff, and he instead would have just taken a deep breath and moved on.
Yeah.
The karma dissolves.
Yeah.
Now they've had to go to court multiple times. I mean, it's a mess, right? Yeah. All self-created because of an inappropriate reaction. There are moments in time, and we're about to experience some of them, where we have to really decide how we react or not react.
Yeah.
And where we say yes and where we say no.
Yeah, makes total sense. Really does make so much sense. Yeah, I love that. I just want to say, Jill, thank you so much for this conversation that we had about the months as we move forward for April and May and June. And also just wanting to put out there that, I personally have had, astrology sitting there, chart with you, reading, and I just absolutely found it amazing. So yeah, I totally trust in what you say, and you were spot on with everything. So it's brilliant. So those of you who are listening to this and you are interested in having a chart reading, please do look at Jill through the website and have a little look at what she's offering, because honestly, you are really good. You're amazing. So thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else who's joined us this evening. Thank you.